Hello and welcome to this video. I hope you're doing well so far, and I hope you enjoyed the previous tutorial. So today in this particular video, we'll be focusing on retopologizing the head. So if you notice, the head is quite different from where we left off because I went in and kind of tweaked it. I gave it like a day rest so I can have fresh eyes to keep going. So that's something you should bear in mind. Like on the first day after your first sculpt, don't it might look good for the meantime, but you need to give it like some breathing time so that you can get back to it and have better eyes for certain things and enough energy to be able to even go inside and get those kind of details which you're looking for. So basically, I like the final outlook. So what we're going to do today is going to be retopologizing. I know some people are very worried when it comes to retopologizing because they don't know where to start. But today I'm just going to try to make it as easy as possible. We're going to just focus on two main things. The first is just basic tools you can use to accomplish this in Blender, and finally the mindset you should have going into any retopology. And I think once you understand that mindset, it becomes fun because I actually enjoy the process because I then take sculpt as creating a very rough 3D scan of the geometry, even though I'm sculpting it. But then retopology is the part I'm looking forward to because it allows me actually to finalize the model and kind of even do some modeling in the process. And I'll try to make that very obvious to you guys today. Okay, so let's go ahead and start up. First of all, in my viewport shading, I've gone ahead to switch it to studio and set the color to random so I can be able to identify the different objects without adding materials. Okay, and next we can go ahead and add a plane. Oh, sorry, added a cube. Okay, so this plane is what we're going to use for the retopology process. Excuse me. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is go to the modifier tab, selecting the plane. So the modifier is this spanner icon, and we can select the mirror so that we can be able to mirror everything we do in one side to the other side easily. And importantly, we need to click check this clipping so that it can match the two different objects. Okay, and for our next step is enabling the snapping feature. This allows us to snap the geometry onto this reference geometry so that we can get the same shape. So basically you just turn it on, and the one you need to select is face, and you can just leave everything as default, or you just need to turn it on and leave it to face. And finally you want to go to the modifier again and select the solidify. So the reason you're selecting the solidify is if we go into our edit mode, which you can switch from here, edit mode, and you can go out to object mode through the same way. So if you select all the geometry, let's scale this down slightly. So I'm scaling down with S, so you can look at the screen cascade here to follow everything I'm doing. So I'm just gonna grab this and just paste it onto the geometry, and as you see, it's going to just follow the form of the geometry because we are using the snap to face. Okay, but currently we cannot really see the geometry, which is going to be problematic if we keep retopologizing. So we need to preview it. So that's where the solidify comes in, and we're just going to offset the thickness that we can be able to see the geometry as needed. And finally we will check on preview edit mode so that we can be able to see this vertex. And also, this is just personal preference, I like to check on only rim. This creates like a shell effect in the solidify modifier. So this is without it, and this is with it. Okay, so these are just the basic settings I use for my retopology. The reason I use this instead of using the shrink wrap is because the shrink wrap prevents you from modeling as you go, but I feel this gives me more control and less unpredicted results. So that's the reason I go with this, and this has worked. I've been using it for so many projects, and it seems to have worked fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with topology. So before we go ahead, the basic thing you have to work out for retopology is I think retopology is very important in use, in depending on the use case which you're trying to achieve. So if you're going for an animated character, it's usually nice before even the re-topology process. You guys would discuss the animation capabilities or the kind of face rig or the kind of body mechanics which you guys are trying to accomplish. This determines the topology. Like there are standard ones which you should watch out for, like the ring around the mouth, the ring around the eyes, this nice ring around here. So let's draw it. So the nice ring around here, I think probably I'll just snap it to surface. Let's delete this and surface. Okay, so there's one here. So these are pretty standard topologies for at least face, but my goal is kind of give you, is kind of show you what's show you the standard and show you how to break it. So these are nice topology because they help deform the face perfectly. So this allows the smile to go this direction easily. This allows the cheek to move along, like deform perfectly. Even the nose has another topology here and another one. So another good advantage of topology is it helps define features of the character. So if you're trying to retain a certain face, the topology you put around there, it's very important. So if you, let me delete this. So if you have like a topology that looks like this without caring about this nice transition of the nose, it will not work well because there's no real defining edge loops that is telling the software that this place I need you to really keep the shape. So the best way to even go about like a shape like this is like a nice edge loop. It's a nice loop that's conforming to the shape, so that you can actually retain the shape, and then you can build from here to kind of get the final result. And you have like a nice edge loop going here to make sure that the shape remains the same. Okay, so for like for example this shape, even though we're not going to animate this character, so for this shape now, for us to retain it, we cannot just we could either do this kind of edge loop that kind of retain it, or we can actually intentionally create another edge loop going around here. But then if we do this, we might run into a problem here. So that's why just understanding like how the edge loops are going to react with the subdivision is important. So if we have like a ring going, we can have a problem here. So this is not a variable option. So if like the character had like a larger forehead probably, and maybe the eyebrows is more pronounced, like a more stylized eyebrows, maybe this will go for it. But for something like this, probably we need an edge loop going this direction, so that it doesn't mess everything, it doesn't mess with topology, and we can just have an extra one here, and from here we start smoothing out, so we can have like a very nice transition in this corner. So the main reason you should worry about edge loop are the use case where you need to retain, you need to get nice deformation, either using shape keys or armature, and also to define some very nice to define the edges. There are other uses like simulation, but those ones are like they come later. But just understanding how to use it for deformations and for flow of geometry, it makes it even easier for you to embark on topology, re-topology, without being so afraid of it, and you feel more confident because you know what to look for in the shape of the character you're trying to re-topologize. So let's just do one more example. Okay, so for the mouth, we cannot just create like a topology that goes like this and kind of fill it up, and maybe leave a little hole here, which might work in like a situation, but it's going to work in a very amateurish way because it's not going to look really good. It's going to deform badly. It's going to not you might actually even lose your form because it's not going to retain shapes. So the best way to actually retain it is like then is this famous one of like a ring around it. And you should also bear in mind you should not just move it if you're a topologist. You should not just keep looping it just to meet. You should have to try to make it match the underlying reference geometry. So with that said, let's get started with the re-topology process. So I usually like to start with the nose bridge. I like to start with this first loop of the nose. I'm just going to reduce the thickness slightly. Okay, and let's go ahead and save this. Go to 1. Okay, so now we can just extrude this by hitting E, and since we have the clipping turned on, we can clip it. So if we have this turned off, we cannot. Okay, so it comes in handy. It's handy sometimes, especially when you need to fix something in the mirror in the middle, so you can use that. Okay, so we'll start with an edge loop like this because we want one going around to kind of get this nice feature in the face that allows the face to bulge or deform rightly here in the face. So this feature here, that's why we need one edge loop going around. Okay, so let's try to align it with that feature. Okay, so it comes down like this. Perfect. Okay, so the next one we'll create is for the mouth. So and just duplicate this, then rotate it, and extrude. So sometimes you might run into it flipping. So one way to fix it is selecting it and hitting the W key. I think you have to be in face mode. Hit W key and then you can flip. I can't find it right now because I have mine saved in like a quick favorite, so we could just search it. So let's search for flip. Okay, so you can flip it, or like the direction said, you can use Alt N to do that and it will flip it. Okay, by the way, I have like a shortcut set for this, so that's why you can easily just switch between them. I have mine set to Alt 1, 2, 3, and you can set it in the user preference. So I'm just going to extrude this, just getting those landmark edge loops. Okay, if you're trying to retain a particular shape, then you have to watch out for it. Like for example, a shape that I will not try to retain in this character is usually there should be like a topology here defining this here, but I'm not going to do that because it's going to, if I put that edge loop here for this character, I feel, and if I add subdivision, it's going to be so pronounced for most parts, and I feel I can just get away with actually just with a normal topology and pushing it out so that this doesn't influence it so much and don't influence the shape so much. So that's why I'm not going to even put this. So like I said, it's just functionality, and it's just functionality that's topology. If you don't really need it for like a static image or static artwork, definitely you should not worry about it. But if you need it for because you're trying to create a rig that needs to be functional and work nicely, definitely you should watch out for what the animation needs, and then you should go for that. Okay, so we can just select all of them by holding Alt right mouse. So you can right mouse, so you can follow my shortcut here. So I'm just going to scale this out, and then we can go ahead and adjust them. And we can even go ahead and add more edge loops. So one good thing about just using this, you can select all the edge loop and hit G, and it's going to make sure it snaps onto the geometry again. I think we need to add one more edge loop here, just to make it rounded out. Okay, I wanted to define the lips. And so let's go for the eyes. We'll define the eye edge loops. So same thing, we can just easily duplicate the edge and extrude it. So as we saw at Alt N, so flip. Just defining those landmarks here, and then once you get it, you can just fill it up. And of course, you want to make sure you look at the flow. So like this technique also works for anything you're trying to retopologize, be it shoes. You're basically trying to retain the shape with the topology and also looking out for functionality in terms of deformation. If it's not going to be deformed, then you probably don't really need to worry about the functionality. You just need to worry about keeping the shapes. So let's extrude. So one cool feature in Blender, you can select one point and hit F, and it's going to just create this nice cool effect. So you can just keep dragging it out. And you don't want to be fast to like build up your geometry count. So you want to just take it easy and build it up like Legos. And when you need, where you need anytime you need geometry, you can just easily add, so that you can work even faster and cleaner. Okay, so we have that the eye set. Okay, so now we need to worry about the eye. So I can just extrude this because I'm trying to retain the shape. And there are different way I could go about it, but I'll just keep this circular loop going. But I'm going to make sure, try to confirm the shape onto the pre-existing sculpt slightly. Probably add some more edge loops here by hitting Ctrl R. Okay, so just keep going. So I'm just adding where I need, I'm just adding edge loops where it's needed. If I don't need any edge loop there, I'll just leave it. Okay. So at this point we can just go ahead and extrude this. Probably do the sunglass effect. Just need to adjust this slightly. So all we're just trying to do is get the landmarks defined. Once you just get the landmark defined, you will see that it's easy to go from there. You can just start moving things in place. So I'm extruding the forehead region, trying to keep the geometry flowing. So I want to create like a nice mask. That's what I call it. I don't know how, like it's a loop going, this edge loop going around from the eyebrows down to the nose. Okay, so this is it. So we kind of get like a nice edge loop going around here that allows us to create even more deformations if we need it. Okay. So we're almost done with all the landmarks, and we can actually okay, we need to do the nose landmark. So for the nose, like I said, we create like a nice bridge so that we can retain the shape of the nose. So we can easily duplicate this, extrude. So selecting the right one. Okay. So let's extrude this a bit backwards. Okay, so we just extrude it to, I mean, in this character we don't really see a very defining attribute for this edge loop, but in the human anatomy you will notice, as much as it's not very prominent in some humans, but it's there. There's the shape of the skull. You can notice there's kind of like, if you've seen this a skull image, you'll notice like there's a kind of bridge, circular. So that's the shape we're trying to recreate here. Okay, and now we can also create another landmark here. So another cool feature in Blender, you can hold Control and click, and it allows you create a vertex. You can extrude that vertex and Alt N, flip. Okay, at this point I think I'll probably even reduce the thickness some more. Okay, so now we can start creating that, which we are trying to retain this shape. Okay, so we're able to retain this nice shape, and from here we can actually start bringing everything together. So let's do the face before we do the ears. So for us to bring everything together, we can also start from the nose again, start joining them. Okay, then we can extrude this. Once you just understand the landmarks you're trying to retain, it becomes easy for you to even fill it up, because you have all the ground stuff set, and even though those are not even really perfect, you'll be fine because the main stuff you're meant to protect are already protected, and you can just go from there. Okay, so connecting them nicely. So you want to try and avoid triangle as much as possible. So you want to make sure you're always combining 4 faces, and sometimes you might run out of loops because we didn't create them as we're creating them. We didn't create them in mind to match, so you can add extra edge loops as needed. So just filling it up. So everything would look very easy now, and it will come out looking nice because you have done the groundworks. Okay, so just fill this up. There are a lot of tools in Blender that assist with it, but maybe I'm just old school. I feel more comfortable when I have control over the entire stuff. So for this we need the shape inside don't really matter so much, but we need it to flow nicely. So let's just extrude this and kind of confirm to the love the reference geometry. That's what I'm calling the sculpt we did. Okay, so we can start combining these ones. Just filling it out, probably end it here. Okay, this is not a good topology, so let's fix that. Like once you practice enough and understand what to look for, you start knowing, you start easily pinpointing when topology will look bad. So let's select this to unmerge it last, and you can actually test it with the subdivision to see how it's looking. So I have a shortcut set for that, so Ctrl D, and it's looking good. Okay, so trying to fill out this face, probably do it this way. So now we can select all this and extrude it in and turn off the snapping. This is why I like using this, so we can just keep working without worrying about the shrink wrap messing stuff up. So let's get this form. You can look at the shortcut I'm using, so you can probably use it yourself. Okay, so we're done with the nose, which is usually the most tricky one to do. And don't want to add too much edge loops here, so that will let one go. We'll let this go. We'll probably have to add, I think it's an option then to add. Okay, so you can see I added an edge loop and just clicked and it will snap onto the geometry. So let's just keep probably need to go in and adjust it so we don't get stretching. Okay, and we can keep going. So it's just like a puzzle. You fix or you add, you just make everything make sense. You start with few geometry and just build on it as you go. Sometimes you might need to, like for games, you have to be more conscious about the geometry count, but for animation, I mean, this at the end of this is going to it's still going to look very reasonable. Okay, so almost done with this. Let's close this up. Now for the face, extrude this down. We still want that loop going on for a bit of time, so we'll just keep creating, working with the loop. Add an edge loop here and still working on that loop. Don't worry, probably there's some faces that are not snapping exactly, but I have a technique that will be showing you guys by the end of it how to take account for all of that. So now we can start closing this out. Okay, so at this point I will probably start breaking the edge loop so that I can I can use up the space without creating so much edge loop. So I'll just start creating some other kind of topology, but I don't care about that because I have my foundation set for either depending on what maybe the art director needs. If it's for if they need us to make sure we have like good topology for effects or rigging or anything, once you just have the base, usually you're good. And of course, as you have to avoid triangles as much as possible. So we're almost there, so let's just keep this going for a bit of time. Okay, so we can close this up. 1, 2, 3. Okay, probably need to remove this. Start closing up the mouth position. Okay, so now we have a triangle here, and let's see how we'll fix it. So just delete this face to kind of create room, so we'll probably need an extra topology here, and that's why we can evade the triangle. And but we created a very bad topology, so we don't want that edge flow, so we need to fix it in another way. So we definitely need this edge loop to keep going. Let's see if we can sacrifice another one. Okay, so let's try this one. Like I said, it's like a puzzle. Okay, so this will not be so disruptive if we have our subdivision. It will not be so disruptive, so it's fine. And we still have our edge loop going around. And so you're just looking for the best option, and of course watching for your needs. Okay, so now we can actually just close out the face, and at this point I'll just isolate these two, the objects I need, by using the num slash, and of isolating them so that we can fill out the rest. So we can select this and just click and just shoot it out. And of course we'll be adding edge loops as needed. Probably get like a nice edge loop here. Let's see. Okay, so we still have that going for us. But you don't want to continue the edge loop so much because it's going to mess up things. And yeah, so that's why I'm going to break it with this. So now we've broken that edge loop, it ends here. So we can make this connect with the eyes. So it's just like pause. Honestly, you just play with them and see the connecting part, and you can look for those nice edge flows you're trying to get and accomplish, and that's how you build off it. I think people like to make things more technical than it's supposed to be. I mean, it's important, but like there still needs to be that artistic touch as much as it's going to some technicality are important. You still want to be able to customize things. Okay, so probably I will just close this up since I already started, and then we can do the ears. Okay, so let's see what we have so far. It's looking good. We have nice edge loops going for us. As you can see, we kept the shape, and we can add subdivisions, and all those edges we're trying to keep are being kept nicely. Yeah, so let's keep going. Kind of messed my selection. I'll just select them again, and let's keep going. So for the ears is still same ideology that I use for the face. Create topology for the main landmarks, and then you close it out. So I'm just going to duplicate an edge, scale it down slightly, extrude so we get the face, and now I'm just looking for the landmark. At this point I can select and shift H to hide everything so I can just focus on the ears. Okay, so just extrude to keep a nice edge loop going around here. Like we stopped at the point where I said I was not going to detail it so much, but like I said, the fresh eye will allow you actually accomplish a lot more than you think you can, because when you're starting out you're in much haste to get projects finished, which is a very good thing to learn, but especially when you're doing your own personal job, one thing I'm beginning to learn, and I'm seeing the influence of that in my personal work, is that the more time you spend on it, and not just time for time's sake, it's like time you intentionally are taking breaks so that you can have a more fresh eye to make progress with it. So that is a big factor that's helping me improve my own skills. So I'm just, like I said, trying to retain some form, so that's some advantage of edge loop. So we can probably retain the form like that, but I think the forms will not stay well with this. So one way to retain the form is actually to create that kind of circular edge loop which we created, so it will keep the form very nicely. So duplicate this, extrude. So I'm just trying to keep that form. and we can actually just connect it here. Try to keep it some more. And this even transmits into hard surface. And the great thing about using this very simple technique of the shrink wrap, the snap and the solidify is that you don't need to worry about it. You can also model with this method. So like you see, I just created a new edge loop and use the knife tool by using K and kind of creating another edge, so that I can be able to connect this and connect this without creating triangles. And at this point I'm just going to go ahead and fill this up. Okay. And create this here lobes area. So just same thing, the form, and how you just kind of predict how it's going to look with subdivisions and deformations. If you need it to be very expressive, then you probably want to pay more attention to the topology. At this point I'm just trying to merge it up. So I'm okay to using triangle here. So I don't create unnecessary geometry. And since it will be hidden already by default, so it's fine. And I know the purpose of this is not like high end, so I know it's not in the sense of not high quality character facial animation. It's just as long as it looks good with the subdivision, then I'm okay for there. So you want to be able to predict that as you go along. Okay, so I've gotten the inner part of the ear, so we can just extrude this outer part. See, so delete this. I think we have like some extra faces here. Okay, we don't. So we can just fill this up and repeat the same thing. So now I'm just kind of getting the outline. Later I'll go ahead and add some edge loops to really define it. Okay, so I can just add an edge loop there and go in and just click, and it's going to snap onto the underlying geometry to confirm with the reference geometry. Okay, So at this point I can hide this and we can start merging them. So before we merge them, I'm going to just extrude, turning off my the snapping and turn it back on, so I can just create a nice big ring edge loop going around the ears. And with that, like usually when you're at this stage, you're practically done with the head. It takes us about 40 minutes, probably take like 30 minutes without talking, but yeah. So we'll just fill this out, and for this part I will just extrude it instead of creating adding more edge loops. So it's F, okay, and start joining them here. Okay, so let's focus on the foreheads a bit. So let's see if we're selecting all the right ones, then we can extrude it. Like this might seem a lot compressed, but it's fine because we're going to spread it up, spread it in the top of the head, so that's fine too. Okay, so we can just click on the vertex and extrude a new face. Okay. So now what you're just trying to maintain is like nice edge flow and just finishing up the job. Okay, so at this stage we probably need to increase the thickness some more to kind of eyeball everything. And I'll select this and extrude it, a couple of edge loops, extrude, and kind of spread it out so that it will help with finishing up the head. I can extrude this up downwards slightly. Okay, so that's basically what we'll be doing to finish up with the head. Usually I have a technique that allows will just let me kind of just outshrine this hair, but this character doesn't have hair, so it will not be so nice. Okay, so we can close this actually with this, but I'm concerned that it might mess up the roundness we're trying to go for. So let me see the reference. So like if we can see the reference, as much we don't just unhide that. If we do that, we're going to get like a new unwanted look on the geometry. So that's why you should always pay attention to the concept, because you're kind of modeling as much as you're re-topologizing, and your edge looks really matters to the flow of geometry. As you can see here, it's very smooth, so we need to maintain that. And one way to make sure we maintain that is to avoid stuff like this. Okay, so we'll just have to keep extruding downwards to maintain that clean flow. Okay, so at this point I can just select this tool and merge it. Actually, it will not be so destructive, just to reduce the edge loops on the head. I think it's starting to look too much, and I can do it for here and create a triangle. Let me see. Okay, it's gonna be destructive, so we don't need that. Probably need to add an extra edge loop. So like if your mindset is like functionality and artistry, like you're enjoying the process, to even make more sense to you, that you will not feel so nervous about re-topologizing your model. So probably you need to delete this and merge this to the center. I think that will be fine. If that's not fine, we have to go back and fix it later, but let's see. Let's just complete the head, then we can go back and fix those topologies that are not working well with subdivision turned on, because that's how it's going to finally look. So we need to make sure it looks good. Okay, so we can start closing this out. Probably add another extra subdivision here. Okay, extrude. Just checking, you have to, at this point, if you're trying to maintain like smooth flowing edge, you have to make sure you check all the things. I think at this point we can start closing out and to not really mess up the edge, clean edge flow we're trying to go for. So that's fine. Okay, so we're done with that. So let's complete the neck, and that will be that for this video. Then we can focus on the body in the next one. Hopefully all this extra stuff will be helpful to us when we're modeling the body, so it would all flow well. Okay, so we can extrude this down so we can start setting up for the neck. Probably can get away with, no we cannot. Okay, so probably need to add edge loops and adjust these ones. So as you can see, my process is testing out the final results even when you just started, because you want to make sure you're on the right track and you don't have to go back. Like same theory with the sculpting, you just understand the fundamentals and build up from it and test it out, because it makes it easy for you to kind of start seeing the end result, which is important, because it keeps you motivated to know that you're close. Okay. Okay, we'll have to fix that later. So for the neck, we can just extrude it actually and extrude it down. So there's a nice technique which I use for stuff like this, like tubes, to kind of match the underlying geometry. You can just select all of them by holding Control and of course switching your select method to tweak, and you can just select them. Okay, and we'll go to the data panel and assign to a new group. We'll add a shrink wrap and move it above the solidifier, and the reference object is this, of course, and the group is this. So it's only going to do this thing. It's going to shrink wrap the neck area, so you can just smooth it out with the sculpt mode. I don't like the effect. So this is part of the reason why I'm very reserved when using the shrink wrap. It can give you any type of unpredictable effect, something like this. So we can probably scale this down, okay, and we'll just adjust it by hand. So at this point we can apply this and make sure the origin points are all good. That's the center point, okay. And now in sculpt mode we can just smooth this out, kind of have like a nice transition. Okay. So watch out for mistakenly clicking on like a vertex in the wrong position to get stuff that looks like that. Okay, so final touch, we'll just try to shrink wrap the entire geometry and of course isolate some areas that might not need it. Okay, so let's add a shrink wrap. And place it above the solidifier. So let's see what's happening there. Okay, so that's good. Okay, so it looks good all around. And the entire model is conforming to the shape, and you can actually at this point, if you don't like the desired result which the shrink wrap is giving you, you can actually go in and isolate those areas and tell it not to shrink, prevent it from being shrink wrapped. Okay. So everything is good. We can apply the shrink wrap once more. Make sure these two are closed, because it happens from time to time. So with that we are probably good. What's left is we can turn this off. Okay, shift hide everything and enable in front, so that we can focus on the eyes, the inner part of the eyes area, so we make sure we're getting the desired result, because it's usually difficult to accomplish this using the solidify, because you'll be getting a wrong position of it. So we'll just get the bridge area. So I forgot to turn on my snap tool, so you need to turn it on, but for most part it's aligned, so it's fine. Okay, so let's just go ahead and close this up. And for the modeling aspect, we can extrude this, scale it Y, oh no, okay, sorry, scale it Z, so we get this provisions for the eyeballs. Okay, and extrude it again. At this point we'll go to loop tools, circle. So this allows you to just create a circular shape from anything, but I think it's not really needed in this situation, so we could just get away with something like this. Scale it Y, of course. So this kind of give a nice eye look. As you can see, we have the nice bridge going. Can adjust this if needed. So that's for the eyes, and let's do for the mouth. Put this inwards. Okay, so we can select this and extrude them in slightly. Okay, and then we extrude again and shift hide everything, and we can just actually just pull this out to form the inner part of the mouth. Okay, and we can extrude this backwards and even scale it some more. If you like to take it down to the throat area, so that's fine. You could just close it off here. Anyway, so I prefer, let's say, just rotating it down without closing it off. So it has like an halo effect. So that's how we have the eyes and the mouth set up. So now let's start looking for problem areas. So we don't need to solidify again, so we can delete that. And let's look for problem areas with the edge loops. So this one is a problem area, so we can delete that. So let's see. Because we don't want to mess it up so much. But okay, so that's good. This is a bad loop. Yeah, so can try to fix it actually. So the way we'll fix it is I'm going to use the knife tool to just draw out an edge here. Okay, so we want to continue the flow going this direction rather than the back. So I'm going to dissolve edge and join it. Now we have the flow going here, which is going to give a more desirable result. Okay, so we then need to delete this, which might mess things up, so fix this too. So we'll probably use cup to fix that, but then for this one, this is easy, so add an edge loop here and join it. So we fix that. So let's see if there's any problem area. So this area is problematic. Let's see how we'll fix it. We want the probably don't want the loop to be going around again. So let's see, let's just delete this. Probably then it will come to ours. So this would be one face, kind of get things going. Then we can merge this. So we have another wrong edge loop. So because of that, we'll have to delete these edge loops, kind of join them. So it's just like puzzle actually. Probably need to add more edge loops here. And move this. Same here, move this. Just to kind of fix those problematic edge loops that are going to probably create problems in the future. And let's combine this or not. So for this, at this point you can probably go, if you've gotten everything you've needed, you can move on to the next video. So for this, we'll just select this 4-point. It'd be a better way to fix it. Delete this face. Dissolve the edge. Okay, add another edge loop here, join them, fix it. So we have continued the edge loop, so we're not getting one here, so that's because we need to add another edge loop and probably adjust this, just adjusting the mouth area and then join this. So we have edge loops going. So let's see how it looks with subdivision. Okay, that looks bad, so we just need to fix it. So one quick way of doing it, we can quickly select them all and relaxing them. Okay, and we can bring out the temp head again and just select the place we want, the problematic area, and assign to a new group. Then we'll add a shrink wrap. Okay, but we'll only be selecting the new group we created, so that it just fixes the underlying shape. So probably we need to create more. So just use the weight paint and select those problematic area so it can align nicely. As you can see, we got a bit nice topology. Probably this is still disturbing me, so let's fix that. And the way to fix that, we'll just delete this actually, so this doesn't connect. And we can use the knife tool and just draw out the new topology. So it connects now. So it should not be perfect at once. You can actually build on it. And once we get that, we can clear that, clear this. Okay. See. So it's looking good actually. So at this point you can just finalize everything. I'm using the smooth tool to kind of smooth out the edges to make sure I have the nice flow which I'm looking for. And for most part I was able to maintain the shapes, everything. Let's see why we're not maintaining the shape here, so I can adjust it. Okay. So once we're happy, we can just go ahead and apply this again. So this is becoming problematic, so we'll remove that edge loop. So at this point, all I'm doing is just fixing the topology and making sure everything flows nicely. So I'm trying to create a new weight paint group for that area so that I can conform to the underlying shape. I know this kind of like probably get into the level of OCD or something, but with my technique this works great for me because it allows me to just build everything like Legos, and later we can focus on those things that are not working so well. Okay. Okay, so let's see why that's not really fixing. So we can get away with removing this one. And let's make sure it's conforming to the underlying mesh. Okay, so we've gotten that back and kind of fixed that indentation there, because we're trying to get like a clean geometry. And at this point I will add like an edge loop to kind of define this edge. Yeah, so we get like a sharper edge and also one for the lips. Probably not so much for the top lips. Okay. Okay, so I'm happy with how it's looking, and we can actually proceed to the next step, which is to add the body and finish up the character. Okay, so thank you for watching. I hope you're doing you enjoyed this video. I'm going to work on it, of course, some more to make sure I'm happy with the result, and then we can proceed on to the next step. So thank you again for watching. Bye bye. See you next time.